So you've worked harder this school year than you've ever worked before. You really poured into your students, building relationships, connecting with parents, making testing and classwork relevant, trying to work around your school to be the teacher that your students need you to be, all while being a part of a very difficult school community. So what do you do after all that when you get to the end of the school year and you just feel like you failed? Feel like you didn't do well enough? Feel like the kids didn't get to where you wanted them to be? That you didn't get to where you wanted to be as an educator? If this is you, or if you know someone like this, I have some good news for you. This question actually comes to us from our Facebook group, and I'm not going to share the person's name because there's a reason that it is a private Facebook group. But it's from a young teacher who felt like they did all these things this year. They really poured into their kids, and at the end of the year, their kids gave up on the final test. That 90% of them, this is what she's saying, is 90% of those students did not even make it through the first closed reading passage. We as educators are planting seeds, meaning some of those seeds are going to grow fast and furious. Others are going to take time, and you won't hear back from students for years sometimes. And I know that is hard, especially when we want to see the results of the good work we've put out that year, that in the hard work that the students have put out that year. But in reality, we don't always see back what we put in right now. It takes time. And I'm telling you from experience, you can have kids come back 10, 20, 30 years later, and they remember your class. They remember something you said. They remember that they worked harder, that you really cared, that you put the effort in, that you put the care in them, that you unlocked something in them. It just took them longer to get to the goal than others. And we have to be okay with the process. There's another thing that's being missed here, and it's a big one too, and that's that parents and students may have never experienced something like this before. I find that when I send emails home at the beginning of the year asking parents, like, what do I need to know about your students so that they can do well this year? Sometimes parents aren't even sure how to answer that question because they've never been asked before. That when kids have been pushed and cared for and met where they are to be brought up to where they can be, sometimes that level of care and patience and kindness is completely off-putting to people. And so the fact that we tried really hard to get to somewhere and it didn't work the first time, I think we're discounting our impact, one. And two, I don't know that we want to show students disappointment. And I'm not saying that anyone that made this post or that any of you are doing that, but it's something to be mindful of how we're carrying ourselves after students do something. We want to be careful not to go from rah-rah all year, you can do this, have it come down to one single moment that students didn't do well on, and now we are in the dumps. We don't want to show that to kids. We want to show kids that they produced a result, that they put in hard work this year, and that despite the outcome of a test, of an assignment, of their grades, man, how well did you go? How much did you grow? And not just did you meet my expectation. Now, real quickly, I want to speak to what do we do with this next year, though? I mean, because that, oh man, that's... To be honest, this is going to be the point where most teachers talk about quitting. They talk about getting out because it's too hard and is all the effort worth it? And my answer to you is yes. The question then becomes, is this the school which you are destined to be at? And that's really just a question that you can answer. I'll say this when thinking about switching schools to folks that might be considering that. If you feel, for me, it's if you feel called, if you feel like this is the place you're supposed to be, then you stay there. If you don't, if you feel like there might be more out there, but you're just worried about the kids or you don't want to leave them or something of that, I'll tell you this. This is coming from a guy that's moved schools once and across the country now. There are children everywhere. There are children that need you everywhere. But you really have to think about, where are your gifts the best used? Sometimes if you're in a particularly difficult school where you don't have a community of people, you don't have a group of people that you can really band together with, it can be hard to help this vision to come to life. That thing, when I talk about vision, it's that teacher you know you can be, the community you know you could be, the change that you know you could help create. These things are real, but without the right partners, it can be very, very difficult to steward that ship on your own. And I don't know if ship steward or not, but sail ship, I guess. I mean, when I left my school in West Philly, I had a community before that. And then we had 95% turnover 2 years in a row, 6 principals in 2 or 3 years. I had 7 co-teachers in like a 2-year, 3-year period. And that doesn't mean you just stop teaching. What it means is you have to see, is this the place that's still for me to be at? Is there a place where my passion, my commitment, my drive will be accelerated by the people around me? Because teachers, look, by not giving up, by staying the course, by doing what we're called to do, what happens is we can change the culture of our school. We can change the culture of the way the students act and behave and engage with the way that other teachers are teaching. I've gotten to work with a lot of schools in New Mexico this year, and I cannot tell you how many times I see this, where there's these pockets of awesome, of people doing great work. But one of the things that makes great teachers great is that they do it together, whether that's with folks that are online or people in real life, and they stay the course because they're playing the long game. Gang, use this summer to recuperate, to revitalize, to learn, to grow, so you can come back next year and do the whole thing again, but looking at this year as not just an end result, but as we got here this year, what's next year gonna hold? That's it, gang. Peace.